Make sure YouTube is going to get us live. I'm not even doing a countdown. Welcome, everybody. Um, there we go. Automatic stream starting up. I see it in there. Give me Antonio and Keith, who have already commented in there. You're welcome to give us a little chat. I think you should hear us and see us. My name's Nate Manahan, and today we are going to be talking on the High Five about how you can use point of sale systems and our POS Pros teams at Payra ProTech to grow your business, expand your portfolio, make your pipeline as large as you've ever seen it. And we're going to be talking to that with Brian and Danny right here. But it's a reminder. I want you to remember this is still April. I've got 2 more weeks that I can use this because we are still in the April after party. Let's have some fun. Little music there. Look at that. I don't know why the graphics not coming up, but that's all right. All right. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring up the 3 best looking men in payments. In the center of the screen, the humming and the hawing, the curmudgeon that we all love because he gives, all of us the best advice. Okay, I don't know if that's totally true.
Curmudgeon?
But...
Yeah, curmudgeon?
Hey,
I think that's what I heard.
Mr. Brian Linky. I had to go with something. You're hemming and hawing over there, making me feel like, hey,
Let me tell you something right now.
Going.
Let me tell you something right now. I'm dealing with self-esteem issues as it is. Okay, so curmudgeon. I'm not sure if I've ever been called that, but no, Nate. Everything we're good here.
A little bit of snow this week, right?
Battling the snowstorms of the week, but I think we've gotten through that, and looking forward to the weekend. And next week, the April after party comes to a close. So you guys want to make some money? I mean, it's never been a better time than right now.
It hasn't. So, and I want everybody notice, we've got, a few little graphics here, but on the far left-hand side, we have a new High Five logo that we're gradually introducing. In fact, we'll even have some merch with this. But on the left-hand side from Glenwood Springs, and next week at this time, instead of sitting in this seat in Indianapolis, Indiana, I'm going to be sitting in a seat in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. I'm back on the road, thank God. Mr. Danny Shard, how are you, Danny?
I'm looking forward to that. Happy Friday, Brian, Nate, High Five Nation. We're excited to get Nate in the office here in Colorado next week. It's going to be pretty cool.
And Charles Dudley says that that Danny has the best haircut. I realize I'm going to get a fresh haircut on Tuesday before I fly out. So, but
it's a little fuzzy right now. I'm actually getting a fresh one this afternoon. So
that's how we roll. So, thank you guys for those all of you who are watching live today. Today's topic: point of sale. That music just keeps coming up. So one of the things I haven't told everyone, Danny and Brian know this, is that I had a Windows computer totally fry, and so I'm now doing this on new software for the last several weeks, and I'm still learning it, and I have no idea sometimes why things pop up. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is a point of sale. And a point of sale is a word that's kind of confusing in our industry because it can be used from everything. The Verifone's going to call their VX520, which is going end of life, a point of sale, down to Aloha and Micros and the most expensive $10,000 per unit point of sale systems. Danny, how do you define point of sale as a working term, especially when we talk POS pros? How do you define that?
Well, it's definitely not the acronym of POS that we've known for most of our lives. So don't put the two together.
Good one, Dan.
Point of sale.
Though sometimes Brian. It lives up to it. Let's be honest.
Good one, Dan.
Depending on the situation, it can. There's so many moving pieces to point of sale, right? Whenever, when we were just getting started in the industry, when I was just getting started in the industry, point of sale meant anything, right? It's the point of sale that you're actually accepting the transaction. That could be a terminal, a mobile reader. We really refer to the POS and the point of sale as your bigger, more robust solutions that do a lot more than just take a payment, right? And that's where there's so many moving pieces and there's so many different options out there. As a salesperson trying to find the right system for your merchant will make your head spin. You'll go into information overload, and it's exhausting as you're trying to find what system they need. And that's where our POS pros comes in. Matt, Robert, Morgan, Tim, Keith, these teams over here, they are literally there to help bridge the gap and make it easier to sell these point of sale systems, and they're getting harder and harder, right? I mean, the technology is continuing to advance. Where we think we know something, next week, Jesse Memel at Paradise will add some cool new feature and do something else, right? So it's constantly evolving, and that's where we can kind of stay in front of it for you, so you can keep like focusing on what you do best, right? Develop those relationships, talking to those merchants, and let our POS Pros team really take the conversation and take that deeper dive into all the different systems we can offer.
Well, and for sure, what's happened in our industry is there have become a lot of proprietary point of sale systems. Some set up as PayFacs, some set up as only singular to a processor. We have that when it comes to Pay Anywhere. There's Clover, there's Toast, and there's all these Square. And so these become, Square makes their money a little bit off their hardware, but mostly off their processing. Toast is doing the same thing, a little bit off their hardware, but mostly off their processing. It's the same thing we're doing. And it becomes that we have to compete in a very robust world. We have a lot more competitors than we did even 5-10 years ago. Brian, I'm going to ask you this. You've been in this industry now roughly a decade. How much more competition when it comes to point of sale and the robust hardware that Danny was talking about are you seeing that our partners are facing?
Well, okay, that's a great question, and it's mind-boggling almost. And and I've said this before. When I first got into this industry and we were talking about point of sale systems, I never, I could never understand how you can sell one, because I mean, how do you go into a merchant and the guy's got a POS system, he's using something, and you're going to start pitching, a $15,000, $20,000 system. I mean, to me, that'd be almost ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, I think the industry is just inundated. And again, a lot of these leads that we get as far as hiring partners that want to come on board. I've run into a lot of guys lately that have their own POS software, and they've developed the hardware, and they're trying to make it in the business as well. So yeah, I think it's again, I think it's like Danny said, information overload. And the thing is, there's a reason, and I'm probably jumping ahead, Nate, and I'm probably answering a question that you're going to ask anyway. But there's a reason why we brought the POS Pros guys on. We never had that division, and here's the reason. And you can say with and Danny may argue with me, I don't know, but nobody knew what they were doing. We had a lot of sales agents out there, and they were going about it and thinking that they knew. And but again, in their defense, it's almost impossible to know everything about every system. So what we have done is we have invested our time, our money, and in the people down in Indianapolis. In Keystone, in Indianapolis, in this big, beautiful building, led by Robert Kramer and Matt Proctor and Morgan Nordmeyer, and then there's Tim and Kenny now, I tell people all the time, you may find as good, you're not going to find better than those guys, and we rely on them heavily because they're the experts.
Well, and I mean, one of the things is putting that experts together. But one of the first things I noticed, Brian, you're 100% right. People didn't know how to sell it. And when they did sell it, it often got set up incorrectly. And I think one of the biggest assets that PayProtect has to offer is not just the POS Pros team, but I call it the POS Pros team plus Billy and the operations team, because there isn't a person that's better at understanding how the best way to set up, especially when you start setting up POS systems that are one-offs or two-offs, or using, a random gateway that we have only 5 merchants out of hundreds of thousands are set up on, and making sure it's set up the correct way. Because when it's not set up the correct way, suddenly we see money being routed to, all kinds of different places. Right, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite wild, and we deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? It's our POS Pros team does everything possible to make it easy for our partners to sell and really, like I said, bridge the gap with these POS vendors and their merchants and kind of take over the conversation. So hopefully you can just continue sitting there, developing the relationship with your merchant while everything happens behind the scenes. It's not always that easy, right? There's obviously a lot of moving pieces to it, like Brian said. And then we've got, for example, there's an issue right now that we're having with one of our vendors, and you're talking about semi-integrated terminals. You're talking about different SDKs and integration capabilities to get to our platform. You're talking about tip on glass and working with PAX devices. There are so many moving pieces that is over all of our heads. And thankfully, we've got a great team like Billy West, Robert Kramer, and the POS vendors that we've partnered with, Retail Cloud, Paradise, Hot Sauce. They're some of the best in the business, right? So having these folks on the back end really help, for the most part, eliminate some of the headaches that can come with a lot of the technology that happens behind the scenes of getting these POS systems to operate properly.
Right, and to answer your question too, Nate, I mean, the competition is and this goes back to my point of, the $15,000 to $20,000, systems. The cost on these systems now is so low. The hardware is so low. Everything is cloud-based software, and everybody, I mean, the competition has never been greater than it is right now, and that's why, again, we've got these guys down in Indianapolis, and they come with a cost, right? I mean, we've obviously invested, time, money, people, and it's proven to be one of the best decisions, and it's one of the things that I use in recruiting, just on every phone call.
100%.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that set us apart, and we're not the only. I am 100% sure because we were the first to put a team together that does like POS Pros. Now it's been copied and recreated and done multiple times over now since. And what a compliment! Thank you. But one of the things we have then stayed ahead of is making sure that we have the right systems for the right merchants and that we're getting that right fit. And Danny, I think you've seen this before because you deal with it when we have a lot of partners that think, oh, I'm just going to put a XYZ system in this car dealership or an auto body repair, or I'm going to put this in a restaurant, and it's the same system, and one of them is not going to fit. One of them is not going to work. What happens when you put the wrong hardware with the wrong type of vertical, wrong type of merchant?
Yeah, I mean, we see that often, which is, what you both are talking about, and why the development, the implementation of the POS department, really how it came to life and how it's just continued to be such an asset to our partners and to our entire offering. I think what you're really referring to and what we see often still happening in this industry is the need for the sales partner to want to continue being that yes person, right? Yes to everything. This system can do it. Little friction, easy sell. But what's happening internally is they're crossing their fingers just hoping it does everything they want it to do because they don't know, right? So they're overselling, and in a lot of cases they're under delivering. As salespeople, we always want the quick sale, right? We want to get in, get out, keep the merchant happy, turnkey, everything's perfect. That's just not realistic when you're talking about how many different options there are in point of sale, because every merchant wants to operate a little bit differently. You can have two restaurants that are very similar structure right next to each other, and they require completely different systems because they choose to operate differently, right? And that's something that's to be noted whenever you're out there selling, that don't be afraid to take that little more, that longer approach to selling when you're talking point of sale, right? Of course, we want to sell quickly. We want to get the commission quickly. We want to get the merchants up and running quickly. These are all things, everything in our industry is speed and get in, get out so we can continue selling. But what that can do is that can handcuff you quite a bit. When you get the wrong system in with a merchant, not only does it damage your reputation because you didn't take those deeper dives into the conversation and identifying the merchant's needs, but it can affect you in the area that you're in and getting referrals. And it really affects your credibility as a salesperson, right? So taking that longer approach is the way to go, especially when you're talking about solutions like this. And that's tough for most. So if you can get through that and really take that longer approach, I think you're going to see a lot more success, and you're going to get a lot more referrals from it because you'll have happier merchants.
Well, no, and Dan, the word that you use that I was going to use that you stole from me is credibility. And the thing about credibility is, these merchants. I mean, everybody that's watching the show knows how fickle they are, right? And you go in there and you start fumbling over what you're talking about and not asking the right questions, and then all of a sudden you source the point of sale system and you get it in there and it's the wrong one. I mean, the chances of you getting the chance of you saying, "Oh, well, you know what? Let's do a do-over," um, are I think next to none, right? I mean,
Slim to
once you get
none.
in,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, once you get in there and you make that mistake, I mean, it's one thing to make a mistake. It's another thing to make a mistake, by not asking the right questions and by not finding out more information to bring back to the POS pros guys that actually know what really know what they're doing. Not that our agents don't know, but I just think that I mean, it just to me, it just seems like it's just so overloading. It's so overwhelming, I guess, is actually the proper word. But
Yep.
but by asking the right questions or any question, just to find out more information, where you can go back to Robert and to Matt. And now you've sent in the lead form, and you can get, now you're bringing them in, and the chances of you getting the sale, I mean, I don't know what the percentages are compared to what we used to do, but it's got to be high compared to how it was before. Because yeah, I mean, before it was just, and again, not and in defense of our agents. You can ask as many questions as you want, but there's only so much. I mean, you're worried about getting to the next appointment. You're worried about pricing changes, and I mean, there's just so many different things. Why not use our guys, right?
So let's talk
Absolutely.
specifically. I totally agree, Brian. Let's talk specifically about how point of sale works when it comes to the cost. I mean, the part of it is point of sale is just more expensive, and there's three different pricing models there's out there. We're not the only ones using it. You can purchase it outright. It's going to be somewhere between $800 and $3,000 per terminal, sometimes a little more, depending on some of the systems you may go after that are even a little more robust, a little more high end, or just have a higher margin. You can purchase it. You can sign some type of lease with a leasing company where you're working with a third party. And it's probably, in my opinion, the only place where leases are still a legitimate part of our sales process, where you're certainly not taking advantage and you're helping them be able to figure out how to finance 10,000. You can do a merchant cash advance with someone like Cash Buoy and do work with that. Or lastly, you can do a placement deal. Danny, can you kind of walk us through really quickly how those each work, and then we'll talk just really briefly pros and cons of each.
Yeah, absolutely. So and our POS Pros team will guide on all the different options even before pricing is presented to a merchant. And this way, you as the partner can really take a few options to your merchant and identify a few positives and negatives with each. So you've got the straight up purchase. Merchants purchase the hardware. They just pay the monthly license fee. Pretty straightforward. I believe all of our POS contracts still give those merchants a 30 or even 60-day window to get familiar with the system. If for any reason they run into an issue, that they can return that and get a refund for it. So the purchase is one option, which we see quite a bit of. And then you've got the lease that you mentioned, Nate, and that's not something that we do directly through PayProtect, but that is an option. And then you've got like the merchant cash advance kind of tying into the same thing. That is a really popular way to get a merchant into these point of sale systems. We've got our placement program, which I'll talk about briefly for a second. But whenever a merchant needs to purchase a system and they might not qualify for a placement, maybe because they're a brand new business just getting started, they might not want to participate in the cash discount program at the required pricing, something like that keeps them from qualifying from a reduced or eliminated cost on that hardware. But these POS systems are quite a bit more expensive than your average terminal, right? So that's where partners like Cash Buoy have been an excellent asset for our partners to reach out to and qualify these merchants for some funding so they can get a point of sale system in their business and pay it back through their processing, right? The revenue based lending is a great way to go whenever you need to get into a POS system, and you're trying to avoid that big sticker price that could be attached to it depending on what the merchant's getting. Then you've got the placement, which is something that we've tend to move around a few times over the last couple of years as we've developed it. But it's all focused on our Edge cash discount program. Merchants have to be priced above 3.5%. They've got to be doing enough volume, 20,000 or more in volume, and that qualifies the merchant for a POS credit of $12.99 that they can put towards the purchase of any POS equipment. So say the merchant does 40,000 in volume, that means they would qualify for 2 POS credits of $12.99, and they can use that towards covering the majority or all of their hardware, and that way they pay little to no money out of pocket to get into these POS systems.
And let me add on to that a couple of things. One of the things that I've learned, again, the more a POS does, the more it costs, right? I mean, just like, when you buy a car, right? The more the car has, the more the car, the better the car, the more it's going to cost. I mean, that's just what it is. The other thing is as far as, and I'm dealing with one of our partners right now that's going through this, but I don't believe once the system is purchased, I don't know if there's a refund. I don't know. I think there's got to be a penalty, right, Nate? I mean, or a restocking fee or something. I think we need to talk to the POS Pros guys about it more. But right now, I'm dealing with a partner that's going through that has a merchant who, for whatever reason, is going the other way, and we're dealing with they want a refund, and I don't believe there is one.
Yeah, I think it depends on each system, because when you're making a purchase, you're actually not purchasing it from us. You're purchasing from the actual point of sale company that we're often resellers of. But that each one has a different agreement. Some have a 30-day or a 60-day window, but that's usually from contract signed. So that often it's a hard thing to do. And so that's something you want to be upfront and honest with, because these are major purchases and major investments for the businesses that you're working in. And especially like when you get into hospitality and you get into some of these places and they're making investments of 8, 10, 15 more terminals and getting these systems up and running, and they're going to pay at the table, and they're integrating all their online ordering, and they're doing all their scheduling and clock in and clock out, and they're managing all their inventory, and everything's going through this business. That's a big decision for this merchant, and it's something they want to make that is not something they're going to change. And that's why it's both the good and the bad, because you want to make sure they make the right decision, and they want to do something then that's going to last them for a long time, which makes them a lifelong merchant of yours, which is what we all want. Gentlemen, let's talk about specifically the process. And I'm going to come to you, Brian, first, because I'm going to ask you to share some of your stories because you've followed this process, and Danny, you have too, but of using the POS Pros team. Can you talk us through what that looks like and the different variables of how to actually use the POS Pros team here at PayProTech?
Again, yes, I can. And again, when I'm recruiting partners, I mean, if we start talking about point of sale systems, one of the questions I'll ask just about every one of them, like, are you sitting in front of a computer? And more times than not, they're not. A lot of guys are driving, but if you are sitting in front of a computer, I always say, listen, here's the thing, okay? We make it extremely difficult for you, right? POSlead.com, right? Get on there, okay? There's like 5 or 6 really tough questions, like your name, your email address, your merchant's name, their email address, phone numbers, and then there's a little box can you tell me a little bit more about your merchant and what their needs are? You put in as much information as you know, submit. POSlead.com, submit. It goes to our guys in Indianapolis. They will then make a phone call to you. They'll reach out to you. You'll have a discussion with them. If, in fact, you want to put them directly in touch with your merchant, which I would highly suggest, they will do that. Live demos, I'm thinking you're probably going to want to be there for that, but I can just tell you, my job, I can't go out and get in front of people like I used to, right? So if I'm going to do it, I submit the lead. Believe me, I've tried to do it without submitting the lead, and I got yelled at. Okay, so don't do that, because even a guy here at PayProTech who's trying to sell a point of sale system. If I don't submit the lead, they're not doing it. So POSlead.com, okay, they reach out to me. I put them directly in touch with my merchant. I had less than nothing to do with the sale. I mean, really. I mean, I just kind of put the two together, and Robert, Matt, they got on the phone with my merchant, and the deal was done. I mean, just again, but I tell people, I'm thinking you're probably gonna, as an agent, as a partner, you're probably gonna have a little bit more interaction with the sale than that. But needless to say, it's the same process, right? POSlead.com, they reach out to you, they have a discussion, bring in the merchant, the three of you get together, and I'm telling you right now, your success rate will be far higher than doing it yourself.
I have to echo that, and there's it's not a requirement, but it is extremely strongly encouraged to be involved in that process of communicating with our POS Pros team and your merchant, and really being in the middle of that. And Robert reminded me here too that this is the important part of going through this process and making sure these merchants are getting the right systems that they need and asking all the questions, right? That's where Robert, Matt, Morgan, Tim, Keith, this team is extremely thorough, and they want to make sure that they dot every I and cross every T, that these merchants know what they're committing to. Because when they sign on the dotted line and they get that equipment and they go through that install, that is when they're locked in, right? So they'll have a cancellation fee if for any reason they need to get out of it. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point, and we've gotten all those questions answered before they even go through the install or even get equipment shipped out to them, right? So the POS Pros is not just an asset to help you close. It's really a requirement and something that you're going to want to make as part of your process whenever you're wanting to sell these point of sale systems, because they've thought of the things that you're not going to be able to ask. And now as you get more familiar with all these point of sale systems, we've got partners today that know what system the merchants want, and they know these systems like the back of their hand, almost just as good as our POS Pros team, because they've sold them for so long. And that's great, and that's okay. But as you're really getting your feet wet and getting in the middle of it and getting in the whole mix of point of sale and all the different moving pieces and options, the POS Pros department is a must, and you want to make sure you go through the thorough process of demos and things like that. Let's get these merchants the right systems that they need and avoid all the headache on the back end that it can cause.
Well, I mean, and again, to piggyback on that a little bit, I mean, why wouldn't you use them? Why wouldn't you use Robert and Matt and Morgan and Tim and Kenny down there? Why wouldn't you do it? I mean, we've invested, I mean, we pay them, right? I mean, there's a building, there's a phone system, there's, computers. I mean, we've invested in them to help you. So, I mean, if you have an opportunity, POSlead.com, send it in. Get in touch with those guys, and they'll help you close more deals.
Danny, what do you say to the partner that's considering working with PayProTech? How does the POS Pros team plus their connection to their relationship manager really set PayProTech apart in our industry?
Say that again, Nate.
So how does, when talking to a prospective partner, how does the POS Pros team mixed with their direct relationship manager that they're going to be connected with really set PayProTech apart in our industry?
I think it's huge. I hear quite often that the support from other vendors, I mean, there's a lot of great marketing out there, and there's a lot of ISOs that say they do all these things, but the support is just lacking, bottom line, right? That's something that we do that's unique here is we assign every partner a direct relationship manager. Although we've got a large team of relationship managers to help everybody, we find that, you need somebody that understands your business, right? Your business might be unique to others. So having that person on our end that can really work closely with you because they know you and they understand the way you operate can really help you be more efficient. Pairing that with our POS Pros team, I don't know how they do it, but they tend to learn how each of our partners operate as well, right? They know what they're looking for. They know how they want to sell. They know the pricing structures that they sell with, even in a lot of cases. And they're able to drive that and use that in their conversations as they're helping them with consultations with merchants and doing demos. It's a really unique combination that we've got here, and I don't think we see enough of it in our industry. And it's something that we really sell with and that we want you to utilize as you come on board as a PayProTech partner. working with our team very closely, working very closely, and being involved throughout the process with our POS Pros team and any deal that you want to set up. We're going to be there to guide you and help you every step of the way. So I don't think that that you'll experience that at other providers.
When I'm recruiting partners, I tell them there's three things that I believe that separate PayProtect from everybody else. Am I biased? Probably. But I truly believe it, though. I think we do cash discounting better than everybody else. I think we've got the POS Pros guys down there, and I think we've got a group of people down there that are better than anybody else in this industry. And the third thing is our relationship managers and how we support you and how we've got Coach Mike Stetzel and Coach Jenny Rickle, reaching out to you to give you the training as much or as little as you'd like. But every single partner is assigned a relationship manager, direct line, email address, and you will get the response from them. Lean on them. But again, cash discounting, POS Pros, relationship managers. I think we do it better than anybody.
I couldn't say it better, Brian. Thank you, guys. The POS, I always say this, we want every POS that we put out there to not be a total POS. And that is the end of the day. What we ultimately want to help you as partners do is
good one, Nate.
Hey, absolutely. We want to play in a world where technology is leading and it's going to only increase. And we're seeing that happen daily. The merchants are wanting more and more technology to run their businesses, and they're looking for leaders who are going to step up and help them make those decisions and make the best decision for their business. And PayProtect has got your back to help make sure you're the one who walks into the businesses, makes the phone calls, and can say with confidence, I will make sure that you get the best point of sale system for your merchant, for your business. And that's what we're here to do. So, gentlemen, as we close out, we've got 2 more Fridays left in April. Well, we're 1 more after today. Today is the next to last Friday in April. We have lots of things going on. The month is nearly over, but I'd love to know, gentlemen, let me bring all 3 of us up. What do you say to encourage our team, our partners, as we close out this month and make April, well, hopefully one of the best Aprils ever? Let's finish strong. We've had a really good week. What do you say? We'll start with you, Mr. Brian Linke.
Well, I'd say that March Madness was a huge success. I think a lot of our partners made a lot more money than they've ever made in 1 month. I can tell you that. And April after party, we've got. Again, I can't believe we did it, but Danny Shard and Billy West and Matt Hoskins put their heads together and they decided to do it again. You have 1 week. You have actually 6 days, 6 business days. Get the deals in and make some money.
Mr. Danny Shard, what do you say, sir?
Couldn't say it any better than Brian did. I mean, it's been a heck of a party. April was quite the after party after March Madness, and it's been a lot of fun. But it's not over yet. We're only 70% of the way through it, so we got a whole week to go, a whole 6 business days to go, and a lot more opportunity to make more money. So get out there and get after it. Take advantage while you can.
It's not continuing in May, I can tell you that.
I can guarantee it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the High Five. For those of you who have been watching live on YouTube, on a couple places that we're so thankful you watch live. For those who are watching afterwards and or listening, we now have an audio and a video feed. You'll get an email about that next Wednesday. We've been building that out for a couple of months, so you can subscribe and it'll get pushed right to your phone, all your devices, whether you're on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts or all the places. You'll be able to get all that. We're excited to be able to give this to you. We would love to hear from you. You can always email me at nmanahan@payprotect.com. Thanks so much for watching, for listening, for being part of the PayProtect family, and for watching the High Five. And let's make sure that the April after party continues to be a major party. We'll see you guys next time. High five, everybody.